helping you find your new way forward to the best years of your life. This is a New Way Forward podcast with your host, Paul Long.
If only I had known about this back in 1989 when I was making a mega change in direction in my career and in my life. If only I had known about this. If only I had looked at it for 15 seconds, I would have chosen a different and better life path. I wouldn't have made a huge decade-long big-ass mistake. And that's the point of this video, is to show you what this is, how it's typically used, but then how I later figured out how to use it so I wouldn't make the same mistake, and instead it's given me the life that I wanted to have. It can save you and help you actually figure out the best way forward for you when you've got to do a major life change. So it could be a career change, it could be just wanting a different life, something more for yourself, something more for yourself, or like retirement. And in fact, that's going to be kind of my analogy throughout this, because so many people now are approaching retirement, and this is the good news, are actually going, now wait a minute, is this right for me? Is this going to give me the life I want and need? Can I be retired for 30 years, taking it easy and doing whatever I want to do? Is that sustainable? Because for more and more people, it's not. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through what this is in general, but the other way to use it to really help you figure it out. Okay, so before I show you this, let me give you the backstory on this. So it was 1989, and I was in a major market television news station, which had been one of my goals, 3 moves, top 10 market. And I was a news reporter, and I'm third generation, right? I grew up in the business. Grandfather and father were in the business. And they told me that it was a noble profession, something to, well, you know, with our founding fathers, freedom of the press was all about, you know, having an informed electorate and holding the people in power accountable. So I actually was one of those reporters that believed in truth and accuracy and fairness and clarity and balance. And the news business in 1989 was going to hell. Back then, it wasn't the politicizing of it. It was just a lot of fear, sensationalism, scare you news, which still exists today. And I'm like, I can't keep doing this. And I may have been able to go network, but Kim and I wanted to start a family, and that's not very conducive to being around for the family. So I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? I need to make a major change. Make a long story short, I discovered this whole new business sector out there of creating content for companies and corporations and such, you know, videos, marketing, internal, external communications, business theater, car reveals. I did all of that. I'm like, I can do that. I can succeed at that. I can make a good living at that. And so I did it. I never should have done it. Yes, I succeeded. Yes, I got to do cool stuff. Yes, I worked with and made friends with amazing people. Yes, people said it was like you were born to do it, but it was never right for me. It wasn't fulfilling and satisfying to me, and I didn't even approach it in a way to make my whole life work. It was a major mistake. If I had just looked at this for 15 seconds, it probably would have meant I would have taken another path. But even if I had taken that path, I would have strategized, planned, set things up, operated differently to account for my whole life, not just the business. And everything would have turned out better for me and for my family and even my check account. So here's what it is. Officially, it's known as the Wheel of Life. I just call it a life wheel. The other thing is a little pretentious for me. And what it is it's typically used by people, and this is a good thing to do. I suggest doing it as an inventory in your life. How are you doing? What needs work? So what it is it's a wheel. And there are 8 pizza slices. Now, there are different ones. You can even make your own. And in fact, you can use this one or scratch things out and change things. Do whatever you want for you, whatever you want, whatever works for you. And you can download it. There's a link to download it in the description or the write-up from Gumroad, and it's free. I'm just giving it to you. Now, you can make a donation if you want, but you don't have to. You're free to have it for free. So what each one of these pizza slices is like a major part of life. So finances, career, intimate relationships, meaning a significant other, a spouse, whatever, happiness, life satisfaction, health, spiritual, mental, your state of being, however you want to characterize it, social and fun, and family. And the original intention is that there are 10 concentric circles. And you rate how you feel about your life in each one of these categories from, 0, which is the bullseye in the middle, to 10, which is the outside ring. Where do you stand in terms of your satisfaction and fulfillment in life in each one of these categories? So like I say, you can do an inventory, and I think it's a great idea, maybe on New Year's Day and then again in July, just to see where am I with stuff. Really kind of identify and think about, how I'm doing. But here's how, years later, I used it in a way that was so foundationally important to me, and quite frankly, made all the difference in the world in finding a way forward in my life, making that transition, that transformation that was right for me this time and can be for you. So this is kind of where I'm going to go into the retirement thing, but this can apply to you if you're 27 years old and you're looking to change careers or companies or businesses or life paths or whatever. So what happened is 2010 is that I knew that I needed to change professions. I was also approaching retirement age. Do I want to retire? Or if not retire, what do I want to do? And what I first started doing was my homework. I knew that I couldn't approach this decision the way that I had in 1989. So how am I going to do it differently? Back in 1989, I do what a lot of people did. I was first of all like, finances and professional, what can I do? I made up the list. What am I good at? What am I not good at? What do I like? What do I don't like? And that's fine. It's just not enough. It's not going deep enough. Least of all, I'm dealing with the same approach and mindset that I did in 1989. I'm going to probably make the same mistake. I need to do something different. So it was twofold. One was that I did this inventory and it wasn't a pretty picture, which showed that I made a poor decision. Family wasn't nearly as high as I wanted it to be or should be. I will say I did really, really well. Raised 2 great sons along with Kim. We do have great memories and great time together, but it could have been and should have been so much better. Social and fun, it was like a 2. Spiritual and mental, around 2010, I was starting to pull myself into a better place on that. My health, a 4. And I'm like, there's an example of looking at this now and thinking, okay, what does this mean? If it was a 4, I'm like, if I'm going to find this new way forward and then enjoy it, I got to get in better health. I got to do something about this. And in a moment, I'll tell you what I did with each one of these to really help figure out more specifically what to do. So I looked at all of these things and I'm realizing these are the things that I need to address in my life to identify what it is that I want and what it is that I need to become the foundation for what I'm going to figure out for the new way forward that's right for me. A lot of people don't do that, and they'll go off like I did in 1989 and regret it later. It's like the old expression, the longest journey begins with the first step. Well, what if that step's in the wrong direction? First of all, you got to figure out what kind of direction you want to go in. And so I made it really fundamental. I'm going to give you a little bonus method here that worked really well for me. It became a filter because as and I'll talk about in a moment, started discovering things and researching and doing my homework and everything, and I'd be like, oh, here's a great idea, but how am I sure that it wasn't like the great idea I had in 1989? So here's what it was. I actually said, all right, how do I want to feel every morning when I wake up? When I'm in my new way forward, how do I want to feel every morning when I wake up? Really basic. How basic can I make it? Because this becomes a filter for those ideas. So here was my list. You can come up with your own. I encourage you to do it. But here was my list. And it took a little bit of effort, and I really gut checked myself on it. So number one, I woke up. Pretty basic, and especially because I'm getting older. I woke up. Kind of need that. The second thing is, I love what I'm doing. I am really satisfied with this, with how fulfilled I am, with the life that I'm leading, the things that I'm doing. I identified things in here, which I'll mention in a moment, that are fulfilling to me and keeps me relevant and making a difference, all of that. And the second thing is, I feel great. I'm in great health. I don't have any major health problems. I'm either not on or barely on any medications. I'm able to do what I want to do, and I'm not limited because of my health. The next thing is, I'm excited about today. And I even thought it's just an average day. Nothing big's happening. It's the 5th average day that I've had that week. I'm looking forward to it. I'm happy with it. I'm good with it. And the last thing is that I don't have to worry about money. I don't need a Lamborghini. I don't need a, ski resort mansion in Jackson Hole, although it might be nice to rent one sometime. I just don't have to worry or put any effort or angst into money. I'm all set. That became a filter for me. When I got an idea, and it's like, okay, whoa, yeah, these are good, but these aren't. That's out because I can't have good health, or I'm not going to be able to enjoy myself. I'm going to be working so hard, whatever the case may be. So that was really helpful. But in going through this, I started identifying, what does it mean to me, this family thing? What does health mean to me? And then I started really thinking it through with each one of these, but I'm going to give health as an example. So I wasn't in that great a shape. And as I mentioned, I realized that I needed to do something better. So how am I going to tackle this? What does good health look like to me? I had to identify that. And then I started thinking, well, how can I do this? I'm not the most disciplined person. When I got a gun to my head to get something done, I'm incredible. But self-starter, I'm not that great. And so I thought, back to the morning thing. Every morning I'll think of one little thing I'm going to do today that's healthy, that's new and different for me. Well, what I found out is that by doing that for like a week or so, it became a habit. Some of those things that I did, I'm still doing. So I'm like building these healthy habits. And like a baby, at first it's a baby step, and then I'm walking, and then I'm trotting, and then I'm running, and then I'm jumping into trees, and all that. The same thing started happening. I got really into it. I started feeling the results. I started feeling good. I started feeling good about myself. And then I got into it. And so then I'm down here on the floor doing yoga stretches in the morning, and I'm listening to Dr. Rhonda Patrick and Peter Attia and David Sinclair and people like that to find even more and better ways to advance my health and die young at an old age, which I had written down on this. What's my goal? I want to die young at an old age, meaning I'm healthy, active, and relevant until a very old age. I don't go through the mega decline. And by the way, it worked, because 15 years later, I am in vastly better health than I was then. And according to my doctor, I'm in better health than a lot of his patients. He's like, your biohealth is like 20, 25 years younger than you are, and you're in better health than a lot of my patients that are that age. So it worked. I was actually figuring it out. Apply those to everything. Here's another part of this. that's really critical was that I was doing my homework. And to like, what are other people my age or older than me doing? What about this thing on retirement? What are people doing? How's that going? Well, like so many things, what I learned was not at all what I expected. What I learned about retirement was that it was becoming a mega trend, a crisis of people suffering in their retirement. I'm not even talking about the money part. That, as it was so often characterized to me, or people that I met or heard about, I would see this scenario of like 6 months, a year, maybe 2 of the retirement honeymoon. Everything is bliss, wonderful. I don't have to get up in the morning, or I can do anything I want. I can do my bucket list. I can travel. I can play golf, which are all fine, by the way. But that was it. And most days you're not even doing that. It was the day in and day out, time after time, and you've got potentially decades of healthy life left ahead of you, active life, independent life. And then what was happening is that the retirement honeymoon was becoming the right retirement nightmare. That alcoholism, drug abuse, depression, divorce were on the rise. Why? Well, Robert Laura was a financial advisor, and he was helping a lot of people with their retirement savings, but he was discovered that this was going on. He was discovering that people were thinking about the money. And by the way, most people don't even think about the money. Most Americans don't have enough money to retire on, especially with an extended lifespan. But they weren't thinking about the life part of it. They were just assuming, oh, I'm just going to retire. It's like falling off a log. Well, that log's on the edge of a cliff. They were sure they had it right. They were sure that it was easy, which is also stunning to me, because you go through life planning and strategizing and researching, although I didn't do enough of it, granted. And then it's just like, oh, well, retirement, I'll just skate through it. And it can be the biggest disaster of your life. Make what happened to me in 1989 look like nothing. So I'm like, why? Well, a loss of relevance, a loss of purpose, a loss of fulfillment, a loss of self-identity. The things that we as humans really need. But modern day retirement, because traditional retirement really started in the 1950s. Unless you were super rich, you were active and relevant and purposeful until the day you died. It just doesn't offer that, and people didn't plan for it. Well, I'm going to plan for it. So then I also did my homework and thought, well, what about other people? What are they doing other than traditional retirement? And again, I was stunned by what I found, that there's a growing number of people who, out of either desire and self-awareness, oh, I don't want to retire, I want to reimagine, reinvigorate, and redesign my life into something that fits this in all respects. And some of them, many of them, probably most of them, were doing it out of necessity. I can't afford to retire. I've been let go from my job because of my age. I can't find another job because of ageism. And they're sitting there a few years later saying, being put in that position was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I had to figure out a way to earn a living, but I was going to make sure that it fit all these other parts of life. That in the first place, I was going to earn a living in a way that I enjoyed and I could do and I was fulfilled by. It wasn't just something I could do, like me in 1989, but it was something I wanted to do. And it included the things that I value in life. That was my problem with the content creation business. There were things that I really value in life that it wasn't providing to me. I wanted to be a news reporter because I wanted to help change the world. I wanted to make an impact on people's lives. Well, no offense to my former clients, but helping Audi sell an A4 or whatever isn't doing that. Now I'm doing it. I realized that was something I valued in life that was missing from my life, along with a few other things. I also, with this, discovered the next step from identifying what you value in life to what my must-haves for life. People like Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins call it standards. You don't like your life? Raise your standards, because we always live up to our standards. We always get our must-haves. Well, what must I have in this future life so that I can make the choice? And so going back to those people, they were reimagining, redesigning their lives to fit all of these things. And when it came to earning an income, which I still needed to do, they were sometimes doing something very similar to what they had been doing before, or something totally radically new that they were capable of, or maybe it had a dream about doing. And here's just one example. Entrepreneurship. Yeah. People retiring age around it as entrepreneurs. Kaufman Index a few years ago showed that baby boomers, it was based on generations, baby boomers in the United States were outpacing millennials in the number of startups in the United States by a 2-to-1 margin, double the number, and had a vastly higher rate of success, which, if you think about it, makes sense. So these were people out of necessity or desire starting entrepreneurial endeavors. That's the other thing. In this day and age, what does that mean? That doesn't mean being a Bill Gates or a Steve Jobs or a Sir Richard Branson. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a solopreneur. It's me, myself, and I can hire contractors to help me. Or it's people becoming social entrepreneurs. It doesn't have to be, I've got to raise millions of dollars in capital and get, angel funding. It can be a multitude of other things, or gig workers who get hired on a contract basis, like freelancers. There are all these different ways to make money to help fit into this lifestyle. So the whole point of this is that when you're thinking about making that change, or when you need to make that change, you got to take that step back. You got to see the big picture of your life, and you got to go fundamental. You've got to, maybe in these concentric circles, instead of doing a ranking, you're doing a list of what does this mean? What does finances mean? What does career mean? You're actually thinking about, because that's one of the biggest problems in the world, is that people don't actually think this stuff through. Oh, I got to figure this out. Or like me, it's like, oh, I can do that. I'll do that. That's a 30-year mistake. I benefit from it. Granted, it could have been a lot worse, but it could have been so much better. And the other thing I realized at 2010, keeping it in the retirement, context, is that I'm not 30 years old anymore. I don't have that much time to keep pivoting and transitioning and transforming. So my recommendation, download this for free. Go ahead and do your assessment. And then, by the way, challenge these categories, or even the way I phrase them. Spiritual and mental. What does that mean to you? Is there something better, or is it different? Happiness and satisfaction. I now wish I had kind of done those separately, because there's overall happiness, but there's satisfaction. Am I satisfied with my life? Not satisfied like it was a satisfactory meal or satisfactory job report. Satisfaction, true satisfaction, that comes from accomplishing something from being relevant, something from making a difference, something that you're working toward, which is huge in terms of having a fulfilling life, which is a motivation to be healthy and actually has a physiologically positive impact on you. So come up with your own categories and then fill in the gaps. Not only what you put on the paper, but it just gets your whole brain, your whole mind, your attention focused on what is right for you, and actually identifying what the hell it is that you want in your life. That's the foundational way to have the new way forward that's ideal for you. Something I could have done in 1989, I failed. Something I did in 2010, and I'm now reaping the benefits from, and so can you.